This is Brock Yates, reporting from the Southwest Drag Strip in Tulsa, Oklahoma, the scene of the National Hot Rod Association's World Championship Finals, the World Series of drag racing. The Tulsa World Finals is exactly what it claims to be, a winner-take-all runoff between the champions who have accumulated the most competition points in 7 National Hot Rod Association regions that span the country. Over 300 of these top cars and drivers are on hand at Tulsa to compete in 7 special eliminator categories that range from the elite top fuel dragster bracket to the purely stock street sedans. With me is racing champion Big Daddy Don Garlits, the Babe Ruth of this frantic 200-mile-an-hour sport. Since he's not entered at Tulsa, Don and I discussed the challenges the drivers would face on the wind-buffeted Southwest Raceway drag strip. Don, with qualifications about to begin, let's talk a little bit about the critical factors involved with the starting line procedure. What will you do as you approach the line with your dragster?
Well, you have to pick a real good spot on the strip. That's very critical, the position of the car. And then the other factor that's very critical is your leave time, when you leave from the yellow to the green.
Are you actually leaving before the green light comes on?
You actually activate the clutch in the car before the green light comes on.
What kind of a time differential is that, really?
Well, it works around 100 to 200ths of a second. The real good drivers are cutting it that close.
Well, say you were to leave a tenth of a second before your opponent left. What sort of an advantage would that give you?
Well, with a 220-mile-an-hour vehicle, that would give you about a 30-foot advantage at the other end.
How about the slower super stocks, which are only attaining velocities of about 130 miles an hour at the other end of the strip?
Well, this interval then comes back to about 17 or 18 feet, but still quite an advantage, as you can see.
Well, obviously, as you say, most of the races are won or lost here, but let's take a walk down to the other end of the drag strip and see what factors are involved down there.
Fine.
Well, Don, here we are about 350 feet away from the starting line. With a 1,500 horsepower fuel dragster, I can imagine things start getting pretty thrilling out here.
Right. After you come off the line, Brock, coming down the course, and the car is set on a ballistic course, just about however, that's why I said lining up on the line is very important. But out about 300 feet, where we are now, you have to start steering. Front wheels are down on the ground pretty steady, everything's set up, you're getting traction, and this is where the fuel dragster driver's got his hands full.
What about traction here, about midway down the strip? Is the car still breaking traction, or is it beginning to really get a bite?
This is where it should be getting a real bite, and this is where the driver has a lot of work to do. He's either got to push the clutch down a little bit to stop the tires from smoking if they are, or if he's using the accelerator pedal to get the traction, he's got to start getting it on the wood pretty soon.
How about the super stocks? What is a good super stock driver doing at this point?
A good super stock driver, Brock, is he's watching his tack and he's getting his shift points just right. He doesn't have quite the steering problem that the fuel dragsters have, but it's very important on his shift points.
Is he involved in a traction problem like the big cars?
No, his big traction problem is back at the line, getting off without spinning the wheels at all. But out here, the super stock driver is usually flat on the wood.
Are there many drag races, both with the big cars and with the super stocks, that are resolved here? In other words, do many losing drivers get passed at this point, or does it usually occur very near the starting line?
Super stocks, I'd say most of the losing drivers get beaten at the line, not counting the starting sequence. But the fuel dragsters, this is where the good cars pass the mediocre cars.
Well, here we are, Don, 1,320 feet from where we started at the finish line. Exactly what sort of elements are involved down here regarding elapsed time and top speed? Those seem to be the two most important parts of drag racing as far as the records are concerned.
Well, the elapsed time is the time it takes the vehicle to go from the start to this line, the finish line.
Will the winner always get a lower elapsed time as he crosses this line?
Provided he left at the same time his opponent did, he'll have a lower elapsed time.
How about top speed? Will he always have a higher top speed?
No, not necessarily. It has nothing to do with the top speed, how fast he's going. It's just who gets to this line first.
So that the top speed that we hear recorded is merely the amount of time that it takes for a car to traverse the 132-foot timing trap. Is that right?
That's correct. It's not the average speed over the entire quarter, which is a misconception by many people who are watching this sport.
Don, it's about time for qualifications to begin, and unless we want to get hit by a 220-mile-an-hour dragster, let's move on.
Right, Brock.